Good day to you, and welcome to another virtual program from the Conococheague Institute. Today's program will be explaining a summer project, a renovation here of the tavern at the Conococheague Institute. I'm joined by volunteer Jacob Davis, who will explain why we've decided to roll our tavern back to a mid-18th century tavern.
Basically, a mid-18th century tavern, one of the reasons that we feel that it is such an important thing to interpret is because for people in the mid-18th century, a lot of times the tavern was the lifeline to what's going on in the world, what's going on in the community, and really, what's going on in the tavern itself. So for the 18th century, taverns are basically a nerve center. So taverns in the 18th century are a place where news can be shared. One of the newspapers might be sent to a tavern because the tavern, in a lot of cases, was the post office. So those newspapers being sent to the tavern are then read by, let's say, just the barkeep. So now everyone can, from the surrounding area, can then come to the tavern and learn, what kind of news is going on. This is also a time in America where America is very land rich, but cash poor. And because of that, you don't really have a whole lot of money for things like municipal buildings, for example. So with the lack of those certain types of municipal buildings, a tavern sort of serves in the absence of that. So it could become a town hall, it could be used as a library, it could be used as a hotel or an inn for people traveling along the road. So yeah, taverns are incredibly versatile and incredibly important to the story of America, but specifically the mid-18th century America.
For us as a site, having a tavern as a large open area will allow us to do larger school groups, and on a rainy day, unlike today, if we have a school program, they can take shelter in a tavern and the program can continue. Now Jacob, your girlfriend Alison Hayes designed this sign for us. We'll focus more on the top half in a moment, but Jay Davis, it is of course your name, but Jay Davis is also here at Rock Hill Farm.
That's correct. So a lot of people, whenever they see Jay Davis, they immediately think that the sign is incredibly self-serving. I assure you it is not. John Davis was basically the proprietor here at Rock Hill Farm in the mid-18th century, and because of that, we want to still tell that story of the Davis family here at Rock Hill Farm. So we made John Davis the proprietor of this tavern. We know that John Davis owns a pretty large parcel of land, and as part of that parcel of land, he's growing things like corn. Corn then can be distilled into whiskey. He's also growing rye as well, and barley. Those things as well can be distilled into alcohols. And whenever you have that surplus of alcohol, you're not just going to sit on it. You're going to want to find a way to be able to sell that. So John Davis, Jay Davis, setting up an ordinary or just a small, simple tavern along a postal road like this makes a lot of sense, basically for John Davis to be selling his crop in liquid form here at the ordinary.
Now, Jacob and Alison did a lot of research on 18th century tavern signs or ordinary signs using original sources, and we knocked together a few different ideas for what the tavern should be called. We finally settled for this, which is a fly on a turnip, for a number of reasons. First off, animal names for taverns is incredibly popular. The White Hart, the Stag, the Lion. A fly is an animal, of course, and very common in the 18th century. What the fly is sitting on is a turnip. Turnips have lost their popularity today.
It's a shame.
But in the mid-18th century, they are the root vegetable. They were described in every receipt, in every journal. You can't read stuff without knocking over turnips. Kind of like today, that you can't order anything in a restaurant without getting French fries. The fly on a turnip has a personal connection for me and Jacob personally. I am not from America. Shocking. I'm from Wiltshire, which is in southern England. My small city, Salisbury. It's a rural city, but it's quite famous today. Now in Wiltshire, we have a rural accent, and it's a farming community. And we have an odd tradition. For over 300 years, the new Member of Parliament of Salisbury has had to go onto the porch of the White Hart Hotel and sing an 18th century country song, The Fly Beyond the Turnip. Why we still do that, I don't know, but it's an odd tradition. This small farming song about a man, John Scroggins, who endeavours to keep flies away from his turnip, is our unofficial county anthem. It is sung and written in the Wiltshire dialect, so it may be a bit hard for modern audiences to hear. F sounds like farmer become V's, varmers. Flies become vloys. S's, like summer, become Z's, zummer. And so, without further ado, what better way to give you a taste of 18th century farming life than with a little song.
Twere on a jolly summer's day, the 21st of May, John Scroggins took his Turmut, and with he trudged away. Now some folks say like a making, and some say fancies mowing, but of all the jobs that I like best, it is the Turmut owen. The fly, the fly, the fly beyond the Turmut, 'tis all me eye for I to try to keep flies off my Turmut. The first place as I went to work, it were with Vermangower, who vowed and swore as how I were a first-rate Turmut ower. The second place I went to work, they paid I by the job. If I'd have known a little afore, I'd soon have been in quad. The fly, the fly, the fly beyond the Turmut, 'tis all me eye for I to try to keep flies off my Turmut. The last place as I went to work, they sent for I a mowing. I sent word back I'd soon take a sack and give up Turmut owen. Now for all you jolly farmer chaps that bides at home so warm, I'll now conclude my ditty with a wishing you no harm. The fly, the fly, the fly beyond the Turmut, 'tis all my eyes for I to try to keep fly off my Turmut.
Of course, the Wiltshire accent is not the most eloquent today, but 18th century songs and poetry does give us a wonderful idea of how people sounded in the 18th century. Jacob, thank you for joining me here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you for singing, and thank you for joining us too.